To celebrate our anniversary, my wife and I booked an Airbnb for the weekend, a cabin on the lake. Looks like it's about to rain, Amber said as she rolled her suitcase across the porch. I looked up. To the west, the sky was deep gray, thick storm clouds heading toward us at a steady pace. Just our luck, I grumbled, hauling my suitcase out of the trunk. After we'd gotten everything inside, we poured wine and sat by the picture window overlooking the lake. The sky was darker now, and the glossy stillness of the water reflected the deep gray of the sky. The pine trees surrounding the lake swayed in the wind. "Wait, look," Amber said. "There's someone out there." At first, I didn't see what she was talking about, but then, as I squinted, I did, in the middle of the lake. There was a tiny, peach-colored blob bobbing up and down. Someone was out there, and they were waving their arms around as if signaling for help. "Oh God, are they drowning?" Amber asked, rushing over to the window. Call the police," I said, getting up and grabbing my jacket. "I'll take the rowboat out and try to help." The Airbnb had advertised a small rowboat that we could use. I could be out in the middle of the lake in under 5 minutes. Given how far we were from town, it would probably take the police 20 minutes to get here. Amber looked at me, as if she were about to say something, but then she just nodded. I zipped up my coat and ran outside. The rain had started. A light drizzle blurred the lake in front of me, wetting my face. I ran down to the docks and undid the knot, then stepped into the boat. It rocked violently underneath me as I sat down and pushed off with the oars. I rowed furiously towards the center of the lake, keeping my eyes on the person, but they were a lot further out than I had anticipated. Even after rowing 5 minutes, my arm muscles burning, I was only slightly closer. I stopped for a second, cupped my hands to my mouth. "Hey, I'm coming to help. Hang in there." They didn't respond. Just kept waving their arms over their head. Probably can't hear me, I thought. Sucking in a deep breath, I began to row faster. The rain was harder now. Thick raindrops hit the wood of my boat with a tap, tap, tap. Water dripped down from my hair and into my eyes. I shook my head to get it off, not breaking stroke, and continued rowing towards the center of the lake. The person was finally a little closer now. I could see them bobbing up and down on the surface of the lake through the pelting rain, waving their arms furiously above their head. It looked like it was possibly a woman, with dark hair, but I couldn't be certain. Oars sloshed through the lake. I was panting, and my arms ached, but I forced myself to continue forward. We weren't that far off now. In just a few minutes, I'd probably be close enough to yell out to them, see them clearly. The sky flashed white. Seconds later, the rumble of thunder, so loud I could feel it in my bones. I swallowed. This isn't safe. I glanced back at the cabin. It was so far away now. I could see the tiny brown blob that was Amber, standing on the docks, waiting for me to return. Maybe we should have just waited for the police. What if I'd get struck by lightning? I swallowed and turned back to the woman, paddled as fast as I could with all my might. The rain pelted down furiously, running down my face, pooling in the bottom of the boat. The peach-colored blob grew closer and closer, and then I could see her clearly for the first time. Every muscle in my body froze, because as she bobbed on the water, waving her hands above her head, she was smiling. Not just smiling, grinning from ear to ear as she stared at my boat approaching. Instinctively, I grabbed the oars and backpedaled. The water resisted me, knocking up in loud splashes, and then the boat began to slide away from her. I grabbed the cell phone out of my pocket. It was Amber. "Drew," she breathed, her voice wavering on the other end of the line. "The police. They said, whatever you do, don't go into the lake." "What?" "Some psycho has been swimming out in the middle of the lake, luring people out. Just leave her there. Come back." She continued talking, but I didn't hear what she said. because the woman had disappeared. The phone fell out of my hands. I grabbed the oars and pulled them towards me, rowing backwards towards the shore as fast as I possibly could. I stared into the water, looking for a ripple, a shadow, anything, but it was impossible. With the rain hitting the surface, the reflections of the storm clouds, there was no way I could tell where she was. I rowed faster, my heart pounding in my chest. Glancing over my shoulder, I could see that the dock was still so far away. Amber began waving to me frantically. The sky, the lake, the pine trees at the shore lit up. A peal of thunder rang in my ears. I rowed faster. Then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap from the bottom of my boat. Didn't have time to react before the boat flipped over and I plunged into the ice-cold water. I broke the surface and gasped in air, screaming as I grabbed the side of the boat. Something grabbed my ankle and tugged. I plunged back into the water. I struggled to pull myself up, but the iron grip on my ankle wouldn't loosen. I kicked and thrashed, trying to pull myself towards the shadow of the boat above me, and then the grip released. I broke the surface, gasping, then clawed at the boat, desperately rightening it. After a few attempts, I was finally able to get myself back inside. I turned it around and rowed as fast as I possibly could, never looking back. Miraculously, the woman didn't follow me. I scrambled up on the dock and Amber hugged me, crying. Police arrived soon after and searched the lake for the woman, but they came up empty-handed. Needless to say, Amber and I cut our trip short. We packed our bags and started the drive home just after the sun had set. But as we pulled out of the driveway, in the darkness, I swear I saw a light winking at us from the middle of the lake, as if someone was trapped out there, signaling for help. When I started the night shift at the Evergreen Hotel, I found a piece of paper waiting for me. Written across the top in Sharpie were the words, "Rules for Employment." "What's this?" I asked Amelia, who was packing up her things. "Just the rules," she said non-committally. "Oh, like, don't steal towels and stuff?" She grimaced. "Yes, just stuff like that," she said nervously, pulling the bag over her shoulder. "Hey, I gotta run. Nice to meet you." "See you in the morning," I said with a wave. She grimaced again. "Yeah, of course." Then she muttered under her breath something that weirdly sounded like, "If you're still here." "What was that?" She walked out the automatic doors and into the parking lot. "If I'm still here, of course I'll still be here. My shift doesn't end until 7 a.m. What kind of slacker does she think I am?" Shaking my head, I picked up the list of rules and began to read. 1. You are allowed one free item from the snack bar per shift. Any further items will be charged out of your wages. 2. Do not use the elevator between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. 3. You may see a tall man with a red suitcase standing in the lobby on occasion. Do not make eye contact with him. Just check him into room 231 and send him on his way. 4. If you hear someone crying for help in the pool area after midnight, return to your office and lock the door. Do not leave until sunrise. 5. Do not enter room 404 under any circumstances. 6. If any guest complains that the tap water is black, tar-like, or sticky, call the hotel owner immediately. 7. You must ID every member of the cleaning crew in the morning. If anyone does not come up in the roster, do not let them in. 8. We do not keep any Bibles in guests' rooms. If a guest asks to use a Bible, we keep one in the back office that they can read in the lobby. 9. Occasionally, the computer may show vacancies on the 6th floor. Do not book anyone in these rooms. The Evergreen Hotel only has 5 floors. 10. Do not eat the cookies. They are for guests only. Smiley face. Well, that was disappointing. When I interviewed to work at the Evergreen Hotel, they'd seemed like such a mature, stable bunch, not the type to plan out an elaborate hazing of the new employees. Because that's clearly what this was. Amelia, or whoever printed this up, had decided to scare the crap out of new hires. What a cliche. Haunted hotel. Ha ha ha. At least now her muttered comment made sense. If you're still here. How many new hires had they scared off before finding me? Luckily for them, I was a horror movie buff and ex-military. I didn't scare easily. Just in case this prank got out of control, though, I saved the hotel owner's number to my cell phone, cursing my dyslexia a few times before I got it right. There were more rules, but I didn't read them. Instead, I walked into the lobby, poured myself a cold cup of coffee, and returned to the front desk. It would be an interesting night. The bell at the front desk rang. It was a little past 3. I was sitting in the back office drinking another cup of coffee, playing StarCraft on my laptop. Technically, I was supposed to be going over checkout logs, but I could do that later. Another impatient ring. With a sigh, I heaved myself up from my computer and made my way to the front desk. It was him, the man with the red suitcase. I averted my eyes, focusing on the desk in front of me. Don't make eye contact. Yeah, it was an immature hazing, but that didn't mean I was going to fail at it. I'm competitive by nature, and I was going to ace this thing. From what little I saw, the man seemed to be a tall, thin man dressed in a suit, standing in the corner of the lobby, next to the grandfather clock. Probably one of Amelia's friends, or that employee Dominic who I'd briefly met earlier. Oh, of course, that's why I'm not allowed to make eye contact. I'd recognize him. I broke into a smile. That's actually really clever. I looked down at my computer, pulling up the check-in screen for room 213. When I looked back up, the man was standing right in front of me. I froze. How did he get there so fast? I hadn't even heard footsteps. He was just suddenly there. My pulse started to race, but I took a deep breath in, steadying myself. Can I help you? He didn't reply, save for his fingernails rapping against the front desk. This is getting really creepy, really fast. I took in a deep, shuddering breath. No, that's what they want me to do. Get scared. They're probably watching all of this right now from the security cameras, laughing their asses off. I glanced up again. My eyes fell on his suitcase. He'd left it in the center of the lobby, and that's when I noticed it wasn't actually a red suitcase. It was white, but there was so much blood, or something that looked an awful lot like blood, soaking through the cloth. It appeared red. The substance dripped out onto the floor, welling in a puddle underneath the wheels. Just a stupid prank, I told myself. My eyes snapped back to the computer. I clicked on room 213, fed the new hotel key into the reader. I plucked the key out and slid it across the desk. Without a word, he took the key. I didn't look up until the sound of his suitcase rolling across the linoleum disappeared. When I did, my blood ran cold. The floor was clean. Where the suitcase had stood, where blood had pooled onto the floor in an inky mess, there was only clean wood. What the hell? As I stood there, thoughts racing through my mind, I heard it. The ding of the elevators down the hall, and then, not 60 seconds later, a cacophony of sound. Racing thumps across the ceiling right above me, as if several people were running as fast as they could. The phone began to ring. Calls flooded in from rooms 202, 207, 218. What the hell's going on the second floor? That's when my eyes fell on the list, pushed aside and forgotten on the desk. Just check him into room 231 and send him on his way. Not room 213. Room 231. higher up people live in a building, the safer they feel leaving their windows open. The ground floor? Absolutely not. What if someone climbs in? The first floor? Well, maybe. People won't exactly climb up, but still, don't leave them open if you're going on holiday. Anything above that seems pretty safe. People leave some windows open literally constantly. I mean, what kind of dangers are going to find you so high up? If you live above the 10th floor, you won't want to find out. Leaving a window open could be the most innocent grave mistake you could possibly make. My warning to you is not about falling from your window ledge. Even windows that are restricted to only open about an inch are dangerous. If there is the slightest way inside, he will find it. Stories of the thing that hovers circulated when I was a kid. Kids would claim that at night they saw something slowly hovering down the street, about 100 feet in the air. They would all have different descriptions of it. A small glowing orb, a creature with red eyes, a dark cylinder, but the stories all hit the same notes. They all looked out of their bedroom window at about 3 a.m. They all saw something high in the sky, but not too high. They all immediately felt filled with dread, despite nothing bad actually happening, and had to look away. I have now learned why. I live on the 11th floor of this student accommodation building. The kitchen is shared with a few other people. I don't really know them that well. We only talk on a need-to-talk basis, although I think a few of them are friends with each other. Regardless, it means that whenever I'm at home, I'm in my bedroom. I'm usually awake quite late, whether it be gaming or studying, usually the former. Last night, it wasn't either though. I've been stressed a lot recently, and found myself sitting up in bed staring out my window. It was cracked open just a bit to let a small breeze in. I don't know how long I sat like that. It was just relaxing. It was nice to look down at all the people of the night, some clearly drunk, and others just walking as if it's not the middle of the night. It's that second group I find the most interesting. I find myself making up stories in my head, where they could be going at a time like this, who they are, and whether they do this regularly. At some point, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something. Something not down below or way up high, something right at my level. It was hard to see in the dark. I wasn't so much looking at this than I was looking at its silhouette as it moved in front of the dimly lit windows of the building across the road. The room directly across the street had its light on and curtains open, and it wasn't the best light source I had. It didn't seem to be any shape to me, more like a cloud of smoke, one that didn't rise but just moved in unnatural ways. I immediately thought back to the childhood stories of the thing that hovers. It began to get closer to my window, slowly, and slower still, but moving all the same. The whole while, I kept looking behind me as if something was already in the room. This thing made me feel on edge. I thought once it finally reached my window, I'd be able to see it clearly, to see that my imagination was getting carried away. Oh, it's just a bag in the wind, is what I was hoping to think. Instead, I just found my bedroom window covered, blackness all over it. It was as if my view of the city became a window into the void. I felt dizzy, and my vision felt off, like looking at it was wrong. Every bone in my body was telling me to look away, but I'm glad I didn't because I noticed some of the smoke beginning to leak through the cracks of the window. I've never closed it so fast. I even locked it, something I never do, because why would you when you live this high up? I felt slightly better immediately. The view slowly came back as the thing that hovers moved away. I had to lie down for a while and clear my head. I had a headache that seemed to punish me for not looking away. Despite this, once it cleared up, I sat back up and looked out my window. I noticed that the room directly across the street from me no longer had its light on. At least, that's what I thought, until I looked closer. It was there. It had covered their window and was getting in. Their window must have been open more than mine, as it didn't take long for it to get inside. I never saw it leave, because I closed my curtains at that point and didn't look outside again. This morning, people are talking about the man who was found dead across the street. I don't know for sure, but my gut tells me he must have lived in the room that I saw it enter. I haven't told anyone what I know yet. I'm scared to. But I've been thinking today about what that thing is. I think I understand its behavior now. Clearly, it feeds on people, but what if it also hates to be seen? It only travels at night, high up enough to not be illuminated by streetlights, but low down enough that it can still climb inside windows. It always has a different shape for every person, one that creeps them out, not one that scares them. Humans love to stare at things that scare them, but we always look away from things we find creepy. Everything about it seems to show that it hates to be seen, a silent killer that only targets people who think they're safe, and does everything it can to make sure you never see it coming. So if you live above the 10th floor, don't leave your windows open. Not unless you're ready to meet the thing that hovers.